Welcome back. You're watching Ranting Lunacy. I'm Dave Nitson, your host. This is my guest, Chris Beam. Welcome back, Chris. What is the most frequently diagnosed problem you see?
The issues that we see at the center, probably the top three are depression or bipolar, something to do with mood disorders. And then the second is marriage conflict. I do a lot of marriage counseling, couples who are just struggling. And then the third is issues with kids, some kind of parenting issue or something, family dynamics, something is going on there. So I do a lot of parenting coaching or counseling.
Now, how can someone, what are the symptoms of depression? How can someone tell that's not, the difference between, well, I'm just sad today because this happened, I didn't like it, or something that's really causing from depression, the depression problem? How can you tell the difference?
Well, yeah, let me give a real quick disclaimer, just saying if you hear these things, do not self-diagnose yourself. Definitely seek out a trained professional who can help you with this. But some of the signs that you're looking for with depression are, it's going to affect your sleep. Either you're sleeping too much or you're not sleeping at all. For some people with depression, they may be sleeping 14, 16 hours a day, getting up and still asleep, or still tired, still sluggish, no energy, lethargic. Other people may be difficulty falling asleep or difficulty staying asleep. They may sleep 2 hours, be awake, and they sleep 4 hours. So it affects the sleep. It also affects the appetite. Same kind of thing. Physically, it affects them in that they may be eating too much, a lot of emotional eating, or they may not be eating at all. Their appetite is just gone. And they may actually go days without having anything significant. They started skipping meals. They started skipping nutritional food, just kind of snacking here and there because the appetite's just not there. Or like I said, the other way is just overeating too much. Some of the other things are with depression, when it's major depression, very easily distracted. Your thoughts are just not focused on what you're doing. It's hard to complete tasks. You're going to have that sluggishness that's there physically. There may be days when you just kind of feel like you don't want to be around other people, a lot of social isolation. And part of that is, especially when you're going down in depression, you're tired of other people telling you, just do this to feel better, or just do this and you'll be better.
Snap out of it.
Yeah, and they get tired of it, but the other part is just being around other people who aren't depressed and seeing how happy they are just kind of makes the person feel even worse. And so they start isolating themselves, socially. And then another area is just like what you described, having just those feelings of depression, hopelessness, just feeling down. They may be able to identify, well, it started here, or this was the trigger, or this is what brought me into the depression, or when it started. But for some people, they may not be. There may not be a very clear, here's the starting point. It may just, they may not be able to say what's the reason. It may be something chemical. You can definitely see genetically it's passed down at different times. Just because your parents or grandparents have it doesn't mean that you have it. But that could be one of the reasons, that it's passed down. Sometimes it is situational. We as people, we go through hard times. We
like
go
a
through
loss of a loved one?
Loss of a loved one, even a pet. Sometimes it's not even lost to death. Sometimes it's you move away and your support system is just gone. Sometimes it's the loss of an opportunity. Loss of job, loss of home, loss of a dream. This house that we've invested so much in is just gone. It could be lost. It could be something else. Someone hurting you. It may be rooted very deeply in anger, where you feel like you've been wrong, someone's attacked you, someone's just done an injustice towards you, and instead of talking about it, processing it, it becomes more internalized.
It becomes like an obsession too, doesn't it?
Sometimes it may feel like that, yeah. Just those thoughts that just will not stop.
But regardless, if they're like this, it's very important to get help, isn't it?
Definitely. Like I said before, it's not about self-diagnosing. It is about talking to someone who can help you, someone who's trained professionally.
They need medication?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. There are a lot of studies that show the most effective way of dealing with depression is through medication plus counseling, those two things together. For some people, medication is enough. For other people, counseling is enough. But definitely do something.
Okay. You're talking about it being in the family. My mom's brother committed suicide.
Okay.
He hanged himself when he was 28 years old. He lost a very dear friend of his, first cousin. It was his first cousin, and they were like brothers. And he died. He was in Vietnam, and he was wounded, and he died.
Okay.
And he never got over it.
Wow.
And nobody picked up on it. This is back in the 60s. when it wasn't as open as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very sad, wanted to be by himself a lot, and they tried to convince him to go on a trip with them to see my mom when we were living up north. He wouldn't go, and they came back and found him dead and hanging. And the reason I'm bringing this personal experience up is because you can be on the outside and notice a problem with someone, and they don't see it themselves, but you see it.
Yeah.
How do you approach someone that you think they may have a problem, a loved one? Let's say if a loved one's really depressed, how would you approach them?
It definitely works better when you have a relationship with a person. If it's just someone that you just kind of know and you haven't really connected with them or don't have that interaction with them, it's kind of hard, but you can still say something. When you have that relationship, you can definitely say it in love. I care about you, you're important to me. Some of your choices or some of the things that we're seeing, I'm kind of concerned about. And the person, they may be open to it, they may not be. It's not about debate. It's not about arguing. How can I convince you how wrong you are and how right I am? It's not about that. It's about getting help. Can I connect with you in a way that I may be able to hear some of your pain and you can share with me, and we can kind of get you the help that you need, and maybe do that in partnership.
That goes into referral. Maybe they were referred by an MD, medical doctor, family practitioner.
Yep.
Or a loved one could say you need to call the Samaritan Counseling Center.
Definitely.
So this is how they come into under your domain and get help.
Yeah, we've been around for almost 3 years now. We've got a lot of word of mouth going out about us, but there are still people who don't know where we are or what we do. They haven't even heard of us. But a lot of people have, and so sometimes it may be a family member who's come to us, or a friend or a neighbor, or a fellow, someone, a coworker or a fellow church member or something. We get a lot of referrals from doctors. We get a lot of referrals from pastors. We work very closely with pastors and churches. We get a lot of referrals from, some of the systems like DJJ or DFACS, those systems.
Okay. Now, suppose that I am a client. Mm-hmm. I come to you the first day. How's the first day? How's the first meeting?
That very first session is going to be a lot of questions from me. I want to hear what's going on, but I'm also going to talk to you about what counseling can offer you. I'm going to talk to you about, there's no quick fix. There's no magic pills. It really is just going to be this process, step by step, of addressing the issue. Can we figure out what it is? So that first session is really going to be me getting information, but also you as the client asking questions of me. What is your experience? Are you able to
get comfortable with you?
Yeah, because it's not just me, taking on a new client.
Well,
it's
the
client
factor.
saying, very much. And if you don't feel comfortable with me or one of our counselors in the center, it's going to be hard to open up. Even if you know you need help, you've got to be able to come in and feel comfortable.
I remember you telling me a story. You probably don't remember this, but you told me once where, I believe it was you, it could be somebody else, where you have a husband and wife sit back to back and look at a plate. I don't know if it was you.
I don't know that it was me.
And the wife would describe the plate, and she'd go into detail about the floral arrangement and the colors and everything, and the man would go, something to eat on. And the reason I bring this up is because is it hard for men to open up sometime to you and to learn trust? Because that's the stereotype is men don't talk mushy and.
It is, yeah. I don't know that I told you that story, but I definitely understand what you're saying. It is different. Men and women very much relate differently.
Yeah.
And that may be something we can hit on a little bit later, because huge differences. And yet, is counseling effective? It is. A lot of times as men, we're standing side by side, doing something, watching the game, fishing, doing something, working on a project, but we're talking. And very much for women, it's not all about stereotypes, but it's more about the connections, it's about the relationship. It's sitting down with a cup of coffee or just even connecting and saying, where are you at, what's going on with you? Men are uncomfortable with that a lot of times.
Yeah, we kind of think something like we want to get away from you if we talk that way. Yeah. So they come into the you've got about 1 minute. They come into the, we need to wrap this up. We'll come back in a moment. You're watching Ranting Lunacy. This is Danis and my host, Chris Bean.